and youngest and new.
A fucking destroyer, man.
Hi, I'm Mike Tyson, heavyweight champ of the world.
Where every fight was an execution.
You're the best fighter in the world.
Fear was a lot of Tyson's weapon.
And he was so fucking fast.
Like, what could he possibly be afraid of then, too?
Nothing.
WBC heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson.
Before the bell ever rang, most fights were already over, not because of skill, not because of strategy, but because of fear. Across the ring stood a man who didn't just want to win, he wanted to destroy. Mike Tyson didn't punch to score points. He punched with murderous intention. Every shot was a threat. Every step forward was a warning. In his prime, Tyson wasn't fighting opponents. He was executing them. Fighters talked about it years later. The walk to the ring felt heavier. The air felt thinner. Their legs betrayed them before their minds could catch up. They looked across the canvas and realized the truth. That's my ass. Tyson didn't need trash talk. He didn't need theatrics. His presence was enough. Cus D'Amato once said, "Fear is like fire. It can cook your food or burn your house down." Mike Tyson learned how to turn fear into a weapon, not just his own, but his opponent's. By the time the bell rang, they weren't thinking about combinations, or defense, or survival. They were thinking one thing: how long until this ends? Because when Mike Tyson was at his peak, nothing could stop him. Nothing could scare him. And the most terrifying part? He was just getting started. Before the fear, before the knockouts, there was Brownsville, Brooklyn, a place where weakness didn't survive. Mike Tyson grew up in poverty, surrounded by violence and instability. His father was gone. His mother struggled. And at school, Mike wasn't feared. He was bullied. So he stopped going. Not because he didn't care, but because it hurt less to disappear. On the street corners, he noticed something. The men who stood there didn't get touched. No one challenged them. No one disrespected them. They weren't smart. They weren't rich. They were feared. Mike wanted that power. He began fighting in the streets for money. Kids from other neighborhoods were brought in to face him. One fight, one winner. By 13, Mike had been arrested again and again. Fighting became survival. Violence became routine. "I hated my childhood," Tyson would later say. "My whole life had been violent." Eventually, the streets caught up to him. Another arrest. Another mistake. This time, he was sent away to a reform school. And without knowing it, the most dangerous fighter in boxing history was about to meet the one man who would change everything. At the reform school, Mike Tyson wasn't looking for a future. He was looking for a fight. That's when he heard there was an old man on campus, a former fighter, a trainer. So Mike did what he always did. He tried to intimidate him. He banged on the door. Cus D'Amato opened it and didn't flinch. Tyson expected fear. He saw nothing. Cus didn't see a criminal. He didn't see a lost kid. He saw potential. When Mike told him he wanted to be a fighter, Cus didn't hesitate. He began teaching him the basics: footwork, defense, discipline. But more importantly, he taught him how to think. Cus told Mike something no one ever had. "You're going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Not maybe, not someday. You will be." Cus took Mike out of the reform system and into his own home. He gave him structure, rules, purpose. He became more than a trainer. He became a father. Cus understood fear better than anyone. He taught Mike that fear was not weakness, it was fuel. "Fear is like fire," he said. "Control it, and it works for you. Lose control, and it destroys everything." Under Cus D'Amato, Mike Tyson stopped fighting the world. He started preparing to conquer it. Cus D'Amato wasn't just training a boxer. He was building a weapon. Every movement had a purpose. Every drill had meaning. Nothing was accidental. Cus taught Tyson the peekaboo style. Hands high, chin tucked, constant head movement, slip, bob, explode. Mike wasn't the tallest heavyweight. He wasn't the biggest. So Cus turned that into an advantage. A low center of gravity, explosive legs, short, violent punches thrown from impossible angles. Tyson didn't need space. He invaded it. Hours were spent perfecting head movement, rolling under punches, firing back with hooks and uppercuts before opponents could react. Then there was the neck. Tyson trained it relentlessly. Bridges, rolls, endless repetitions. A thick, iron neck that absorbed punches and drove power through every shot. But the real training happened in the mind. Cus used repetition. affirmations, even hypnosis. Tyson was taught to see himself as unbeatable before he ever stepped into the ring. Greatness, Cus said, is when you make your delusions your reality. Mike lived by that. He trained every day, ran every morning, hit the gym when others slept. Cus warned him, discipline is everything, because once discipline fades, fear returns. By the time Tyson entered the ring, he wasn't thinking about winning. He was thinking about finishing. By the mid-1980s, Mike Tyson was no longer just a prodigy. He was a phenomenon. At 18, he turned professional. Every fight was a statement. Every opponent a warning. Tyson didn't just win, he destroyed. Knockouts piled up with terrifying speed. Opponents never saw it coming. A left hook, a right uppercut, and it was over before they knew what hit them. Just 2 years into his career, at the age of 20, he faced Trevor Berbick for the WBC heavyweight title. The media called him young, naive, unproven. Mike called it irrelevant. When the bell rang, he moved like a predator. His speed was blinding. His punches were explosions. And within minutes, the world witnessed history. Mike Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion ever. But Tyson didn't stop there. He unified the titles. He collected belts. He became the undisputed champion. WBC, WBA, IBF. At 21, he held all 3 major titles. He was unbeatable, invincible. Fighters spoke of the psychological terror before even stepping into the ring. Crowds feared his presence. Promoters revered it. Tyson wasn't just a champion. He was the embodiment of power and fear. And for a moment, the world believed there was no one who could touch him. In his prime, Mike Tyson wasn't just a fighter. He was an executioner. The bell didn't signal the start of a fight. It signaled a countdown. For his opponent, every second was a race against survival. Tyson's combination of speed, power, and precision was unmatched. A single left hook could send a man to the canvas. A right uppercut could end a career. But it wasn't just his fists. It was the mind games, the aura, the intimidation that began the moment he walked to the ring. Opponents spoke of frozen legs, racing hearts, and minds that betrayed them before the first punch. Fighters came in with confidence and left with fear. Tyson trained like a machine, but Cus D'Amato had also forged him mentally. Every fight was rehearsed in his mind, every scenario anticipated, every fear turned into fuel. In those early years, he became known as Iron Mike, and for good reason. He was relentless, he was ferocious, he was unstoppable. By 1986, Mike Tyson wasn't just the youngest heavyweight champion. He was the man every boxer feared, the predator who redefined what it meant to dominate the ring. And the world was just beginning to understand the true terror of Mike Tyson. Even the strongest can falter when the foundation crumbles. For Mike Tyson, that foundation was Cus D'Amato, the man who had seen potential in a scared kid from Brownsville. The man who taught him fear was fuel. The man who turned raw power into precision and chaos into discipline. Cus wasn't just a trainer. He was a father, a mentor, a guide. And in 1985, he passed away. Mike was only 19. And for the first time, the boy who had learned to conquer fear was left to face the world alone. The loss was seismic. Tyson's discipline faltered. His team changed. New influences crept in. People saw the void, and they tried to fill it. For the first time, Mike tasted vulnerability. Even a predator can feel exposed, but the public didn't notice. They saw only the rising star, the youngest heavyweight champion, the man destroying everyone in his path. Behind the scenes, however, the storm had begun. Cus's absence left a gap in guidance, in strategy, in mental armor. And without him, Mike Tyson was about to face the first real test of his career. With Cus gone, a new figure entered Tyson's world, Don King. King was larger than life, loud, charismatic, and ruthless. He promised fame, fortune, power, and Mike, still only a teenager, took it all in. Suddenly, life wasn't just about the ring. It was magazine covers, commercials, and global attention. Tyson was no longer just a fighter. He was a cultural phenomenon. But fame has a cost. Money, women, and influence came with pressure and distraction. The discipline Cus had instilled began to fray. The structure that had forged the boy from Brownsville into a monster was slipping. King was a promoter, a mentor, and sometimes a manipulator. He offered opportunity, but also created dependency. Tyson's world expanded, but the safety net of guidance had vanished. The monster in the ring remained unstoppable, but outside, cracks were forming. Even champions are human. Even predators can be vulnerable. And as the distractions grew, the first real challenge of Tyson's invincible reign was quietly approaching. February 11th, 1990, Tokyo, Japan. Mike Tyson, the unstoppable, the invincible, the youngest undisputed heavyweight champion in history, stepped into the ring. His opponent, James Buster Douglas, a 42-1 underdog, a man the world expected to be crushed in minutes. But something had changed. Tyson wasn't the same disciplined force he had been. Distractions, fame, and the absence of Cus D'Amato had taken their toll. From the opening bell, Douglas fought with precision and heart. He dodged, countered, and struck with purpose. And slowly, the unthinkable happened. Tyson was knocked down in the 8th round. He rose, but the seed of doubt had been planted. By the 10th round, Douglas delivered a knockout that stunned the world. The Invincible was vanquished. In one night, Mike Tyson's aura of invulnerability shattered. The monster had been defeated, not just by punches, but by the pressure of fame, loss, and distraction. The world gasped. The boy from Brownsville had fallen, and the beginning of the end was now undeniable. Mike Tyson, in his prime, was more than a champion. He was fear incarnate, a force of nature shaped by hardship, discipline, and obsession. He grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, a place where weakness didn't survive. Every punch thrown on those streets, every fight for respect, every moment of survival carved him into a weapon. Cus D'Amato saw that weapon and forged it into perfection, a combination of speed, power, and psychological dominance the world had never seen. In the ring, Tyson wasn't just fast. He was relentless. He didn't just attack opponents. He assessed, intimidated, and dismantled them, often before they even realized the fight had begun. His peekaboo style, explosive uppercuts, and unyielding aggression made him the most terrifying presence in boxing history. But his legacy isn't just measured in knockouts or belts. It's in the aura he carried, the way he made the impossible seem inevitable. Opponents faced more than fists. They faced a monster molded by years of struggle and perfected through unbreakable discipline. In those few years of undisputed dominance, Tyson was a living demonstration of how fear, when mastered, can become a weapon. Yes, he stumbled. Fame, distractions, and personal tragedy tested him. The loss to Buster Douglas, legal battles, and time in prison could have defined him. But those struggles don't erase what he was at his peak. They remind us that greatness is fragile, human, and fiercely fought for. Prime Mike Tyson wasn't just a boxer. He was a psychological phenomenon, a living legend, and a reminder of what happens when raw talent meets relentless preparation. For a brief, unforgettable time, he was untouchable. And in the history of heavyweight boxing, he will always be remembered as the most fearsome predator the sport has ever seen.